YouTube? It's me, Bergie, and I'm here with a video. Now, you guys are probably tired of my shit because I know I am. I am so pissed at myself that I keep on doing these wrap-up videos or just recording just late or not at all, and it's really pissing me off. I'm trying to fix that so that way, hopefully, when the new year comes around, I'll have my shit together, but we'll see if that actually happens because starting university as of right now in January, so I don't know if I'll get my shit together. I hope I do because I hope I do because this is annoying me. But anyway, I am going to be giving my September wrap-up. Again, I know it's so goddamn late and you probably don't even care, but you know what, I'm gonna do it just so I can get into the swing of things again, hopefully, and just get back to a routine that I never had. So I'm gonna make a routine. So we'll see if that happens. Even if I'm not doing these wrap-ups quite regularly or on time, you should check out my Instagram channel page. I don't know what you call it. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of kind of mini reviews on the books I've been reading, so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm reading in real time and also some of my thoughts about them. My Instagram name is mbergie1313. Pretty much every social media account of mine is that. So I do recommend you read that. I'll have my link for that down below. I always have my Instagram, my Twitter, and all that kind of stuff down below in the description box, but just so you guys know, if you want more real-time mini reviews on the books I'm reading. So let's just get into the general statistics for September. In September, I read 9 books total. Of those, all of them were physical, none were ebooks, which isn't a surprise. When I'm home or have access to better libraries, I'm going to be reading physical books because I'm not a huge fan of ebooks. Now, 6 of those books I borrowed from the library and 3 were my own. I really need to kind of read more of the books that I own because I've been neglecting them, because with library books I feel pressure to read them because I don't want to return them without having finished them. So I really need to either cut down my library takeouts or I just need to stop altogether. Now, as for the gender of the authors, 6 were male and 3 were female, so I'm kind of getting back to reading more male written novels, which I need to, again, try to make it equal. Now, as for genres, I read 2 science fiction novels, 1 science nonfiction, 4 suspense, 1 mystery, and 2 thrillers. As for reading level, I read 8 adult novels, 1 YA, no middle grade or children's book, and also no new adult. So I was pretty much reading adult novels all month, which I'm pretty proud of myself of because, again, I've mentioned this multiple times, I'm usually a young adult reader or a middle grade children's grade reader. So I'm pretty proud of myself to have gotten more and more introduced into the adult genre. Now, as for publishing dates, 0 from the pre-1800s, 0 from the 1800s, 2 from the 1900s, 3 from the 2000s, and 4 from 2010s. Again, I need to start reading or make myself read older books. I want to kind of make it a little bit more evenly distributed. So that might be actually a goal for 2018 because I don't see myself doing that right now. Now, as for ratings, I have 4 5-star books, 3 4-star, 1 3-star, 1 2-star, and 0 1-stars. So for the most part, it was on the better end of the rating scale, so I was pretty happy about that. Now, as for total pages read in September, I read 3,599, which averages to about 120 pages a day, which is not bad. I mean, I've done better during the summer, but I've kind of had an upheaval because I moved to New York. And I've been trying to get jobs and that kind of stuff, so I've been kind of busy. So I'm okay with how many pages I've read, which, I mean, I still read a lot, so I'm pretty proud of what I've done. So now that I've gone over to the general information about the books I read this month, let's get into the actual books. So the first book I picked up this month was The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. This has been talked, not necessarily a ton, but I've heard mention of it on various booktube channels, and I was kind of interested because they said it was a science opera novel, and I was interested to see what that meant. Now, I knew it was science fiction, and I knew it had to do with space, like it took place in space. But other than that, I had no idea what this book was about. And to be honest, I was expecting something a little bit different. Now, in hindsight, I should have known that there wasn't going to be as much action because it is described as a science opera, but yeah, it wasn't what I expected. Now, I kind of got the feel of a Doctor Who Guardians of the Galaxy vibe from this novel, so that was really interesting, but it is very heavily character driven rather than plot, and I think I've mentioned this multiple times on my channel. I am more of a plot girl than a character girl, so again, that was what kind of disappointed me a little bit. I wasn't really grasped by what was happening in the book because really nothing was happening. There is, though, a small kind of plot line, but it's very much minimal and in the background, so again, that's kind of why I wasn't really gripped. However, I will say that it is very interesting because it describes and includes various social issues that are relevant to our society now, but is placed in such a different backdrop that it is really like interesting to kind of wrap your head around, and it kind of helps you maybe see why these issues are issues in our real life through the kind of fiction, fantastical element in which it is written in. And such issues are like racism, privilege, and economic status, to name a few. Those were the three, I think, prominent ones that were included in the novel. So I thought it was very interesting to see how these issues were approached in such a kind of science fiction world. So I thought that was cool. And overall, I did give this a C+. It was written very beautifully. I'm a plot person, so I needed plot, and it wasn't really there for me, so I was kind of not necessarily dreading picking up the book, but it took me a long time to read it, even though it is only 438 pages long, which is not long at all by my standards. So yeah, it was just a slightly above meh book. Now, the second book I read was a continuation of my science nonfiction binge, and this was Astrophysics for People in a Hurry by Neil deGrasse Tyson. This basically talks about the same scientific astrophysics points that were brought up in Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time. However, I feel like in this novel it is done in a much more approachable, accessible way, because I feel like Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's someone you can actually talk to, as in like he's very personable, if you know what I mean. He's very outgoing, and I don't know, just the way he talks is much more colloquial than what Stephen Hawking, he's more scientific based. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just much more easier to understand and to kind of read about, because he also just includes different jokes, and it's just a lot easier to get through. One of the problems that I did have with Stephen Hawking's novel was that there were no footnotes. There was a glossary at the end, and I was happy to see that there were footnotes in Tyson's novel, but still I wanted more. Give me more explanation. It just wasn't enough. And also, what this book was lacking was pictures. There were not enough pictures, which is something that A Brief History of Time did a little bit better, I believe. And what I really liked was the inclusion of the last chapter in Tyson's book, which is called Reflections on the Cosmic Perspective, How It Affects Us. And it kind of brings this kind of out there topic of astrophysics. So it takes it from being just out in the galaxy to being more at home, and how this kind of stuff affects us as human beings, because the average person, they don't care about what's going on in the galaxy. That's just too far of a thing to grasp. So he does kind of bring it down to earth, and I really enjoyed that chapter. And I wish there was more about that, because I really did like it. Overall, I did give this a B-. There were aspects where it could have been explained more, or could have been made a little bit more accessible, and of course I wanted more pictures to kind of help maybe explain or to just assist what he was talking about. So I did have those minor issues, but overall I thought this was a good way to kind of dip your toes into the astrophysics world. Now, the next couple of books, I'm not going to go into order because I read pretty much a series in September, and I want to kind of talk about those first, get them out of the way, because they were rereads. So, the next 4 books that I read were Dan Brown's Robert Langdon series. So we have Angels and Demons, The Da Vinci Code, The Lost Symbol, and Inferno. This series follows Robert Langdon, of course, go through and kind of, I don't know, it's a suspense series in which different conspiracy theories are kind of included and explored. And for the most part, he also shows the dichotomy between religion and science. A lot of the books are about how they are kind of opposed, and also how they kind of try to reach the same goal of what the universe is about, basically. That's kind of simplifying it, but yeah. So in the first one, in Angels and Demons, some keywords are antimatter, Vatican, religion versus science, Illuminati, and Rome. For the Da Vinci Code, we have the Priori of Sion, the Holy Grail, Cryptology, Opus Dei, and Paris/the UK. For the Lost Symbol, there is Freemasons, Hand of Mysteries, Washington, D.C., Noetic Science, which is the science of thoughts, which I thought was very interesting. I thought. I'm not funny. And then finally, Inferno deals with the Consortium and the World Health Organization, Dante, Florence, Venice, and Turkey, and overpopulation. For this series, you don't necessarily have to read them in order. I'm pretty sure most people only know the Da Vinci Code and usually start with that and then maybe go back to Angels and Demons or whatever. That is, or Angels and Demons, then Da Vinci Code, The Lost Symbol, and Inferno fits in like the timeline of the setting of the novels, but it's not crucial that you read them in order because they don't really rely on what happened beforehand. There might be some mentions of what happened in the previous books, but it's nothing like you'll be lost if you don't read them in order. However, me being a fan of this series, I would say you should read them in order because I think it's just the best way to do it. Now anyway, for ratings, I gave Angels and Demons A, The Da Vinci Code A, The Lost Symbol an A, and Inferno an A. So basically I gave all of them an A, so I do really recommend them. This series is like one of my favorite series of all time, and it's my favorite adult series of all time, so I really do love this series. Now getting back into the order of how I read things, the next book I read was The Mysterious Affair at Styles by Agatha Christie. In this novel, we follow a group of people who were brought to this manor, and someone dies during this time, and we follow Hercule Poirot, which he's a famous detective character in Agatha Christie's novels, or she has a series around his different investigations. So we follow him as he tries to figure out who was the murderer. It's very easy to read. This is my first Agatha Christie book, and I was kind of intimidated because I heard that she is such a popular mystery novelist, but I loved it. It was easy to read again. It's great at keeping you in the dark. You don't know who is going to be the killer. About 50 pages in, I made a guess on who I thought was going to be the killer, and I was wrong. I was completely off. And I just enjoyed the writing style and the characters of this book. It's just beautifully written and well done. I need to read more Agatha Christie. I'm so angry at myself that this is the first time that I've read any of her books. And also, if you like Sherlock Holmes, I'm sure you would love this because it is such a great detective kind of novel. Overall, I gave this a B. I'm sure once I read more of her books, I'll up the rating for all of them, but as for now, it was a B with the potential to be better or to be a higher grade. The 6th book I read was The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. This got a lot of hype a couple of years ago, and I wanted to see if it was worth it, and I kind of wanted to get into the thriller genre. Now let me tell you, I was disappointed. I do not see why this book was so popular. Now, if you do not know, this book follows a woman who basically is obsessed with watching people out of the window while she's on her train ride to and from work. And that's all I knew. I knew she might have seen something happen. I just didn't know what. Now that is a part of it, but it kind of goes more than that. But I understand with thrillers, most people want to know as little as possible. And that's, of course, how I went into it. One, I don't know if I was in the right mindset for this book because there was a lot of issues that were portrayed in here in the worst possible light. It really magnified the worst in the characters. And because of that, like, I found the characters completely unlikable and immoral, and I just didn't like them. There are cases where I'm okay with unlikable characters, but these, I couldn't deal with them. I did not like any of them. They were all just crazy, completely crazy. Now, I thought this book was too long for what the plot was. I think Paula Hawkins really stretched it for what it was worth. It did not need that much kind of explanation, because there were points where the plot just didn't progress at all. They were just repeating what was happening before or how the character felt, and I did not like it. But yeah, it wasn't a book for me, and I'll talk about this later on, but like, I don't think thrillers are my genre. I just don't like how they're written. Maybe I haven't found the one for me, but again, I'll talk about that more in a little bit longer. Actually, in my October wrap-up. The next book I read, and actually the final book I read, was Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. Now, I'm sure everybody at least knows a summary of this novel. It's where an island is basically used as an amusement park, but instead of being like a regular amusement park, the attraction is new dinosaurs that have been kind of brought back from extinction, which is not a good idea. I really liked the writing style. It was very well done. Even though I knew the story, it was still written in a way that it kept me gripped and on the edge of my seat. Most of the characters are stupid and self-absorbed. However, I still enjoyed them, unlike with the girl on the train. These characters I could at least not, I guess, sympathize with them, but at least not completely hate them. And the only character I loved was Ian Malcolm, which I'm pretty sure, I need to look up this actor's name because I forgot what his name was. I was thinking about it the other day. I forget why. I'm pretty sure it was in a crossword puzzle, but Jeff Goldblum, that's it. The character who's played in the movies by Jeff Goldblum. I loved his character. He has so many like great quotes, and they're really random if you think about it outside of the context of the book. Like, he talks about different like existential things, like about the world and climate change and just how the world works. And I loved it. He was the smartest character, and I just loved it. It was great. Now, this novel is what I liked, unlike A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. It's the opposite. This was extremely plot driven and did not have as much characterization. But again, I don't care for that. I love plot rather than characterization. And I will say it's not as scary as the movies are, because I remember, at least for me, I watched the movies when I was younger and they were scary as hell. This book is not as scary. I mean, there are parts where it is gory and could be seen as scary, but I was fine. I was completely fine. And overall, I gave this book a B rating, so I did enjoy it. So yeah, those are the books that I read in September. I'll be sure to have my October wrap-up shortly after this one, because I want to get back on track. But let's see if that actually happens, because I am awful at sticking to my word, so we'll see if that happens. I hope it does. But yeah, if you have read any of these books, let me know. Let me know your thoughts. I would love to talk about them with you guys, if you so like to. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.